All right, here we go. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Coach Hapa. I'm very excited to have you here. Folks, I'm here to answer your questions. So you tell me what it is that you want me to answer, and I'm here to do it. Well, let's do it then. Shoot. All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Coach Hapa. I am just getting my situation over here. Got the DDJ Flex 4 controller right here. Today, I've actually pulled up the Algorithm DJ Pro software. Let me resize that so that that fits better. But we are here. We are about to cover a couple of things. I have this scheduled as something I like to call Fix Your Mix. So there's a lot of things that I hear. I work with a lot of different DJs, and there's a lot of mixing that needs to be tweaked and fixed and whatnot. And I think initially, right, like for those of you who have been tuning into a lot of things that I do, one of the things that we focus on is knowing your music. That's sort of first, right? You got to know the track. So you've got to know the three things, the three most important parts that you need to know. The three things you need to know about a song. Any song that you were going to mix would be, let me bring this up here, would be number one, BPM, right? Number two, how do we get in? And then number three, how do we get out? These are the three things that I've got to know about every song before I try to mix them. Now, when it comes to actually mixing the tracks together, there are different techniques. There are different things that you can do to be able to smooth the mix out. And so today what I want to do is I want to touch on a couple of different techniques that I can show you. And for some of you, this might be some review. For others of you, this is brand new, and this is something that's really helpful. My hope is that there might even just be this one little thing that I say that might get you thinking about something a bit differently. And that's the goal. That is the goal, to have the light bulb go off. By the way, if you're here, you're joining us here on YouTube, make sure to go ahead and put in the chat where you're joining us from. If you're here on Twitch, we also want to know where you're joining us from as well. Shout out to all of our folks that are here joining us live. Some of you might be seeing this later on a replay, which is cool too. I know quite a few of you watch this on a replay. So let me go ahead and get something set up here. I need to change a camera angle for myself really quick. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to put this into studio mode. Some of you, by the way, have asked me what it is that we use to be able to broadcast in this way. And we're using something called StreamYard today. We also have this set up, and this is running through OBS, which allows me to control the different camera angles. So it allows me to switch between different things. So let me turn this, let me put that back on, and let me switch between this. You can see this. So that allows me to go from here, right, to then be able to see the overhead of it all. Like you'll be able to see all these different angles of what it is that I'm doing. So for those of you who want to set up your studio and it's something that you want to do, let me know too. We're happy to make a video on how we've gone about doing this. This is now probably version 4 or 5 of this studio space, and figuring out the different nuances of it all. All right, so here's what I wanted to show you. This is what I'm using today. This is DJ Pro. For anybody who's never used DJ Pro, maybe you have, but you just haven't used it on a laptop. Maybe you've used their iPhone app or their Android app that they have on the phone. Really great mobile app, but they also have a desktop version, and the desktop version is amazing. And so I wanted to show this. Oftentimes I'm showcasing Serato or showcasing Rekordbox. Today I wanted to show you DJ Pro. If you have Serato questions, if you have Rekordbox questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Happy to get to that later as well. But yes, let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to sort of load up a song here. I'm going to load up 2 things that I want to play. And let me see what I've got. Okay, so I did something earlier with these 2. Okay, so you hear that on that side? Cool. Okay, so if we look at the screen, I've loaded a track on the left side and one on the right side. You'll notice that I've already gone through and done what I told you I was going to do, which is to figure out what is the BPM, and then how do I get in and how do I get out of all of those, which, by the way, shout out to DJ Ryan from the ATX area. I think that's Austin, Texas, I believe, ATX. What's going on, Ryan? Great to have you with us. All right, so if I were to come back over here, you'll see that I've got my 2 decks that are here, and in the middle here, I've got my EQ. Now, the reason why I wanted to point this out and why I wanted to also show this to you in Algorithm DJ Pro is because let's go ahead and switch this back to EQ. So right now I'm showing you my EQ knobs, which are my high, my mid, and my low. This is very much the same as what you're used to seeing on this. I've got my high, my mid, and my low. Right, so let's keep it on the EQ side first. So hear the difference here? Okay. I should probably flip between this one actually. And so you can see this, that I'm actually pulling down the knobs at the different times. You'll see my knobs move on this. You see this? It's like sending MIDI signal. So it's showing that my low is going out, my mid is going out, my high is going out. So when it comes to mixing, I see a lot of DJs mixing and not using EQ. EQ is essential when I'm mixing, because I've got 2 of everything that's playing. So if I'm actually playing 2 songs at the same time, which this is what this looks like here. I'm playing song A, and underneath it, I'm playing song B. So for a period of time, we're actually hearing both songs at the same time. And now I'm hearing also low, mid, and high frequencies. And the same thing is true of this. I'm hearing low, mid, and high frequencies. So if I've got the volume up on both sides, I'm actually hearing double of everything. I'm hearing double the low. I'm hearing double the mid, and I'm hearing double the high. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the EQ to be able to take out one of these. Now, there's lots of different techniques when it comes to this in terms of taking out the low of the song coming in and then swapping that. Like I'll show you that technique. There's also using the mid and the low together, which then only leaves a high. And like you can kind of play with some of these knobs. There's also the idea of leaving everything the way that it is when the song is coming in, and instead taking things out of the song you're coming out of. I'll show you both of these things. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to cue this up. So you'll see this here. Let me go to a different layout. Hang on a second. So let's see. This might be a better layout. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, that's a better layout. Okay. So on this, if I'm playing this song here. So by the way, some of you might wonder what all the colors are for. The colors denote length. So I've gone ahead and I've set up this track already so that I know how to get in and out of it. So red in my system means 8 bars. So I can tell that this chorus is 8 bars long. That's 4 bars and another 4. Cool. And then into the verse. So I'm going to use that as the place to get out of it. And that is this section here. So this would be, instead, I'm going to take off these here, right? This would be my chorus. And this is 8 bars long. And then under it, I'm going to put the intro of the other song, which is also 8 bars. And this is now going to be a no-brainer because this is red and this is red. So if I line up red and red, we should be good to go. Now, during this part, while these 2 are mixing, this is when we're going to have double of everything. We're going to have double the low, double the mid, double the high. So I'm going to do a couple of things. You'll watch me do a couple of things. One is I'm not going to bring the volume in full all the way at the very beginning. You'll also see me use the EQ to be able to take out of the song that we're coming out of. And that's the first one I'm going to show you. Okay, so here we go. So playing the left side. And let's go ahead and set it up this way. Playing the left side, coming out here on the right. Okay, so let's back cue it a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to use Beat Sync for right now. Here we go. And red on red. Notice I took a low out. Okay, so in this case, I didn't touch the EQ at all on the right side. I only touched the EQ on the left side in terms of when I took things out. Now, honestly, if I were to go back to that, I think I took the mid out a little bit too early. It is what it is. It sort of stayed in. It was fine. But I think I took it out a little bit early. This is all going to be based off of feel. And you're going to do this based off of, depending on what two songs you have, right? Depending on the what's in the elements of those two songs. So let's try a different way. Instead, this time, I'm going to start with the low down on the song coming in. And then I'm going to start to kind of mess around with things. All right, so here we go. So reset everything. Here we go. Getting ready for the lighting up the red and red. So it comes in right here. Let's start with the low down. I'm going to do a swap. Maybe give it a little filter. Okay, cool. Cool. So you saw in this case, what I did is I started with the low down, and as the songs came in and they were now up full volume, then I did a bass swap. So I move, you're looking at watch my hands. I'm moving them at the same time as a bass swap. Now this works really well, especially with a lot of dance music. So it works really well here where it's got a pretty prominent bass line or like kick drums and things like that. And you're really able to swap them at that moment in time. You also want to really try to make sure that you're doing things on time, like on beat, like making sure that you're locked into the beat and you're doing things in time is pretty critical. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. Now, I want to show you one more thing. Can I show you one more thing over here with the EQ? All right. By the way, if you're just joining us, please put in the chat where you're joining us from. See DJ Ryan from the ATX area. Some of you maybe, and by the way, I'm showing this right here, but I also want to encourage you, for those of you who are here live, this is also about Ask Me Anything. We call this aha. Like my goal is to give you an aha moment, but it's also an acronym for Ask Hapa Anything. Ask me anything. It could be related to what I'm showing you now, or it could be a completely other question. Maybe you need some help with logo design as a DJ. Maybe you need some help getting more gigs as a DJ. Maybe you need some help on a microphone, like whatever it is. You need some help inside of Serato. Now that's cool too. We can get into all of that. So here's let's go back to this real fast while you're getting your questions together. I see, is that Carl? It's Carl, or I think that's Carl. I can see it kind of on my screen there. Carl from Miami. Shout out to Miami. Okay, cool. So let's do this. Let me switch back. This time, what I want to do is I want to show you inside Algorithm DJ. You see this little area right here that says EQ? If I click on that, I can actually convert this to neural mix. This is very cool. Okay, so what this now does is it turns my EQ, my high, my mid, and my low into vocals, harmonic, or the harmony, and the drums. So listen to now what this sounds like. So if I go back to right, so look. Pretty cool, right? So in this case, we've grouped the bass line. The bass line and the instrumentation is really on that mid knob, and then my vocals are on the high. So let's try it again. Now all instrumental, basically. Just drums. So cool. So cool. Now, something else that I want to point out on the EQ. You'll notice that these white lines are straight up and down at 12 o'clock. This is the default position for where things should be. It irks me when I see DJs playing like this. You should not be playing like this. This is really the default position, is straight up and down. And then really what you're doing is you're taking things out and you're bringing them back. And when you bring them back, they really should be back to 12 o'clock. You should not be doing this with the EQ. This can overdrive the system, and you don't want to do that. Like things start to get distorted and whatnot when you do that. So you really want to try to keep this straight up and down at 12 o'clock. This is what the song naturally sounds like. The way it was intended was to be played at 12 o'clock like this, with EQ and with stems. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take things out or bring them back to 12 o'clock. You're very rarely going past that 12 o'clock mark into 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. You're not going that way. Shout out to DJ Big Al SoCal. I'm sure you've said that before, DJ Big Al. Love that. And I think it's by Corbin. Corbin, I think that is. What do you think about using a quad limiter for maxed limiters in sequence? Okay, that's a whole other discussion. We can get to some of that maybe in a moment. But appreciate you being here, Corbin. I'm going to continue with this of showing the stems real fast and showing you how to fix this mix. So here we go. I'm gonna mix this one more time. Now this time, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the I'm taking the EQ and turning that into stems. So now what I'm gonna do is we are going to play with these in a different type of way. So let's go ahead and cue this up. Okay, so wind this back. Here we go. So because we're not only just taking out the frequency, we're taking out the actual instrumentation, which for those of you who don't know, stem separation, live stem separation came into DJ software probably about 2 to 3 years ago. So this is still relatively new. And almost every major DJ software has some version of live stem separation. Algorithm DJ stem separation, which they call Neural Mix, is one of the best on the market. There's also stem separation, though, inside of Serato, Serato DJ Pro and Serato DJ Lite. There's also stem separation inside of Virtual DJ, inside of Record Box. I mean, like I said, almost every major DJ software has access to live stem separation, although not all stem separation is created equal. So sometimes you're going to get a little bit more bleed depending on what you're using. So it may not be as clean as another piece of software. Algorithm DJs is pretty exceptional in terms of what it sounds like. But as you can see, by eliminating some of those instruments, by eliminating some of those sounds, we actually made more room for them to mix together, for them to sound a bit better together. And so the idea of even, let's say, doing a live mashup, this becomes a lot more possible with stems. And so for those of you who have dreamed of, taking Whitney Houston's vocals and putting it on a Bad Bunny song, like, now's your opportunity. You have access to live stem separation. You could totally make that happen. You do not need to have the studio acapella to be able to do that, or the studio instrumental to be able to do that. So I like, it really opens up so many different options for creative ideas, for creative mixing. You can get into all of those things. So, there is a way to do this as well. So, you might be saying, well, coach, what if I'm not using Algorithm DJ? Like, can I still replace these EQ knobs? Can I still replace these with stems? And depending on the hardware that you have, the answer is yes. So for those of you who have a Rev 5 or a Flex 10, there is a sort of a quote unquote hidden feature where you can hold shift and hit the Q button, and that will turn your EQ into stems. I don't have the Rev 5 or the Flex 10 plugged up right now. I just have the Flex 4, so you'll have to take my word on it. But I do it all the time on both of those controllers. There is also a way for you to be able to do this with the Flex 4 and using, if you're a Serato person, you can actually do this. I found out you could do this and unlock the ability to change the stems on the EQ when you hook up their slab, their little beat pad controller. Like, you can actually do that with when you hook up a slab controller with the Flex 4. So that's pretty cool. And then I do see that this is coming, but there's other ways that you can do this too. For a lot of the software, you can actually MIDI map these knobs as well. You do have to be a little bit careful though, because once you do that, you also can run the risk of messing up the way that the controller is mapped out. So I would say to do that with a little bit of caution. And if you need help doing that, I would highly encourage you to get with somebody who is a bit more computer savvy if you're not yourself. And if you are computer savvy, then go for it. But it is very possible for you to now screw up the way things are laid out. Like this button no longer does what it's supposed to do because you now overwrote that MIDI control, right? So definitely things to keep in mind. Okay, so now that we've talked about this and we've talked about different ways to fix this mix, my hope is that you explore this, that you explore stems, that you explore EQ mixing. And I will also say that one of the biggest mistakes I see people doing is kind of one of the things that I showed you here was they try to overdrive the system or that their gain is too loud. So if you ever hear this where the speaker sounds crunchy and distorted, chances are you're overdriving your system. It's not that the speaker is bad. It's just that you're trying to push too much sound out of the speaker. So imagine this. I'll give you a visual. It would be as if we had like 50 people here in the studio right now, and I've got a door in the studio, and imagine all 50 of us tried to run out of the door at the same time, right? Like what would end up happening is we'd break the door, and that's what's happening when you're trying to push too much sound, when you're overdriving the system and you're pushing too much sound, your gain is too hot, like all this is too hot. What's going to end up happening is you're trying to push too much sound out of the speaker. So what you really want to do is you want to turn up the speaker first, or in this case of what I'm saying, you want to widen the door first and then push people out of that. So that's sort of a good way to think about sound and how to make sure that you're not creating any type of distortion, which by the way, that also is available. Like that's one of the concepts that I cover inside of the book. Let me get my copy of the book here. For those of you that do not have a copy of this, I would highly encourage this, not only because I wrote it, but because there's so much good information that's in here. I would recommend this book if I didn't write it also. This is First 50 DJ Techniques You Should Know. You can find this anywhere, Amazon, Guitar Center. Go get a copy of this, but I just want to show you what I was talking about here. I wrote this down in Distortion, Concept 10, page 22. So what I did in this book is we've laid out these different concepts. So here it is, Concept 10, Distortion. I love this visual. If you're not redlining, you're not headlining. That is absolutely false. Do not let some DJ convince you that you should be redlining. And then you'll see here, this is what I was talking about, is you're overdriving the system. Everything is way too hot on the gain, on the EQ. So here's what you do. How do you prevent distortion? So we have each concept broken down into like what it is, why it's important, where you can find it, how do you do it. In this case here, we turn up the speaker volume first, right? You widen, this is like a QSC K12 or something like that. You got to turn up the speaker volume first. This would be your amp. Most of the speakers today have amps built into them. So we want to turn that up first. Then we want to turn up our master volume on the mixer. In this case, that would be here on the controller, my master volume. I would turn that up next, right? That's our second one. Step 3 is like making sure that your channel fader is all the way up. So we're not going to use this. Like if I was playing and I was like, this one is too loud. Let me just play it at this volume. Like this is not what I'm going to use to control the volume of what's coming out of the speaker. Like I really want this to come all the way up. So I really am using this to fade things in and out. And when something is playing, I want it to be playing at full volume. I'm not trying to match volume here. Like you should not be mixing this way. In my opinion, this should come all the way up to the top because it's really easy for you to like have this here and then accidentally bump this. And all of a sudden now you get a whole big surge of volume, right? So that should be all the way up. And then the step 4 is you should turn up the channel gain and the EQ. That's the step 4. Look at that. You should turn up all these other things before turning that up. So if for whatever reason you're just like, I just need a lot, we need more output, we need more volume, and I'm already here on my master. Now I guess I could turn up my gain a little bit. I could turn up my EQ just a little bit to be able to get more volume out of it, right? If I'm really pushing the limit here. And then the very last thing I should do is turn up the the individual track gain or the master gain inside of your software. So there is different, you may have the ability to turn that up inside of your actual software. There's a knob to be able to do that inside of Serato. I don't think, as I'm looking at Algorithm DJ in this format, I don't see an individual track gain knob. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right place, but I don't actually see one here as I'm looking at it. oh no, here it is. Sorry, here it is right here. So this would be my individual gain. Now that's what I should turn up last. Very, very last thing I should turn up is that. So we broke this down in steps. Hopefully that's helpful. And yeah, I'm here for your questions now. So what else you got? Feel free to put in the chat what questions you have. I know By Corbin was asking, what do you think about using a quad limiter for maxed limiters in sequence? I'm familiar with a limiter. I'm not familiar specifically with a quad limiter. So I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, Corbin. And I don't know, like that is not something that we that typical that is typically used in a DJ setup. So I don't know if you're more so referring to like what you would be using inside of like a DAW or inside of, sort of a mastering chain that you would be using, or something that you're recording, like a live recording chain of some kind. But I think in general, using limiters, we as DJs aren't using a lot of limiters here in any which way. I mean, it's a much sort of more basic setup for the most part. And I think for the most part, even as a DJ, you're not really using compression live at all. Like you're really relying on like the gear itself and what's built into the software and what's built into the hardware that we're using in terms of DJ software and hardware. So yeah, I'd need a little bit more information, and maybe I can help out with that. So sorry, I don't have a clear cut answer for you, but I would love to know like sort of what you're referring to, and maybe I can help point you in the right direction. Any other questions in the chat? Shout out to our friends on Twitch, our friends on YouTube. I see Kai Suri on Twitch. What's going on, man? One of our pro DJ certification students, graduating class of 2026. Excited to celebrate with you in a couple of months here. Anybody else have any questions you want to go over? And if not, I can get into something else that I was going to do here on my side, which is I have a new track that I was going to set hotkeys to. So let me do that. Which, by the way, or actually, you know what I'll do? Here's what I'll do instead of that. Like, let me walk you through Algorithm DJ. This is not sponsored by Algorithm DJ, by the way. I find this software to be really interesting, and I've been testing it out. And something that I wanted to show you was edit grid. Okay, so I have a couple of tracks that I have found, and I don't know if some of these will end up throwing off the stream on YouTube. Sometimes they're a bit sensitive about the music that we're using. But one of the tracks that I found here, so I wrote that that the grid needs to be edited. This is a cover of Outkast Hey Ya, and one of the things that I noticed with it is that the grid was wrong when I had it in Serato. As I'm bringing it into Algorithm DJ, one of the things that Algorithm DJ prides itself on is the ability to have this fluid beat grid. And they use this technology to analyze the track in a way that has some pretty deep like machine learning elements and things like that. Stuff that's way beyond my own like technical brain here. But basically, the idea is that like a track that maybe even had a live drummer, that Algorithm DJ would be able to follow along with it and would be able to set the grid as it's going, which is pretty phenomenal if it's able to do that. And I've tested this out with a couple of songs already, and I've been very impressed. So if anybody is playing, let's say, a lot of funk music or live rock music or anything like that, using Algorithm DJ and using their beat gridding is pretty awesome. And now the other thing that I just found out actually from my friends at Algorithm DJ was that because this has now been now they're working with Alpha Theta on this one library, you can actually export your Algorithm DJ crates to a USB drive to use on a standalone controller from Alpha Theta, like a XDJ AZ or CDJ 3000Xs, and you can export directly from Algorithm DJ without having to go into Rekordbox first. But the other thing is that you'll then get the beat grid. You'll actually get Algorithm DJ's beat grid that then reads inside the CDJ, which I thought was fascinating. So I've yet to fully try that. I want to do a YouTube video on actually trying that and putting that all together, because yeah, that would be pretty crazy to be able to take a live track and now you're able to use the beat grid system that's here inside of Algorithm DJ. So I wanted to show that in just a moment, but I need to make sure I can clear the songs. I'm getting messages from our team being like, "Don't do it, you'll end your stream." Okay, so let's see. Let me check the chat though, real quick. I think Carl said, "Is there a big difference using the crossfader versus volume fader for transitions?" Yes, actually, that is a great question. Is there a big difference? It depends. It depends on how your crossfader is set, and it depends on how your volume fader is set. So by default, let me go over here. By default, our volume faders on a controller like this are set to fade slowly. So it'd be a slow fade. So I'll go with this track that I know I can clear on on YouTube. All right, so we get a slow fade on this. Whereas the way that I have this crossfader set up is I've got the crossfader set up to cut. So you really don't hear any change until the very end. Right? Like, and that's because I've set this up to be on cut so that I could use this to even be able to scratch and whatnot. If you were to set this up on fade, it would also do a slow fade. Now, the other thing to consider though is what if you wanted 100% of this song and only 50% of this song? How do you achieve that on the crossfader? You can't. There's just no way to do that. So in this case, this is where 100% of this, 50% of that, I could achieve that with the volume faders like this. And then in this case with the crossfader, if I still had that set on fade, now you're also dealing with like, well, where am I at exactly on here? Like in terms of like, 70-30 or whatever, 75-25, 25-75, like where am I at on this? So a lot of times it's just easier to be able to set this to cut and not worry about it, leave it somewhere in the middle, and all of this is basically the same until you get to the very end of it. And then using your volume faders to be able to mix. And that's how I have mine set up. Now, there's lots of other ways to set this up. And in fact, actually, something else that Algorithm is notorious for, but other software programs have this as well, is we can actually turn on crossfader effects and now make this do other things. Like I can actually do a echo effect when I'm using the crossfader. So let me go back to the track I was playing before this. Okay, so if I were to, you'll hear this if I can get the crossfader effect on. Is it on? Echo, yes. Tempo blend, transition. Okay. Yeah. So you can do all sorts. Oh, here, neural mix, neural mix echo out. Like this is crazy. Okay, so I think you can literally. This is a little bit cheating, but it is what it is. Now, here's the thing. Okay, I did that pretty quickly. Let me actually do that once more. This, let me try this again. I'm like experimenting. Baby, please, I know you like it what you see. Okay, so if I wanted this to transition, I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna leave my volume faders up. Well, that's exactly what it came for. In this case, all I did was I only used the crossfader. I didn't use any of the other stuff. It feels a little, I don't want to say cheating because I don't know if that's the right word for what I'm trying to say, but like I'm not in, actually, it's not even just so much cheating. I don't feel like I'm in control. I'll put it that way. Like things are happening and I don't know what's actually happening. Like it's eliminating the vocal. and I'm trying to figure out where it cuts out. It's eliminating the vocal. When I get to this side, it's bringing the other vocal back in. Like, I just feel like I'm not in control of what's happening. So personally, I wouldn't recommend starting off by using crossfader effects. I really wouldn't. I think it's important to know what each thing does and what the pieces do to then understand how to be more in control. Because really, being a DJ is really about being in control. And if we don't have control, it then yeah, things can go sideways pretty quickly. So, anyways, that is a part of the little bit of a difference between the crossfader and the volume fader. On this deck itself, too, there is a smart CFX up here, and there's also smart fader. So inside of Record Box, and even inside of Serato, if you turn on smart fader, it'll do an echo out like that also on the fader. But yes, Algorithm DJ has quite a few other options. Let me go and turn that off before it screws me up. All right, so let me turn that off. Okay, great. Feel free to experiment with it. I'm not here to talk bad about it. I mean, the technology is good. Like, technology is great at the end of the day, but I want to feel like I'm in control of something. I want to make sure that I can do it. It's kind of like making something from scratch and like being in control of all the ingredients versus you go and you buy this thing from the store and it's got something that maybe you're allergic to, or it's got an ingredient that you don't know how to pronounce in it, and maybe that's not good for you, right? Like things like that. And you're adding this now into the mix of what it is that you're doing. So the ability to kind of pinpoint a little bit better is what I prefer. But great question, Carl. Hopefully that helped out. And yes, let me go ahead and hide that here. Okay, and I see in the chat we've got a little bit more chatter here. Is it DJ Fima? Maybe. Hi, quick question. Serato, some of my tracks are louder than others. When I'm mixing, the new track can come in much louder if I forget to adjust the gain. How can I normalize the gain? Great question. And let me show you. I'll switch. I'll close Algorithm DJ for a moment. Let me open up Serato on my side. Now, by the way, for those of you who maybe are curious, maybe this is your first time meeting me here, welcome. My name is Coach Hapa from the DJ Coach. We have the djcoach.com. We offer coaching, courses, full certification as well. Those are those 3 C's that we sort of stand on. And also community. Sorry, forgot to throw in community, probably one of the most important ones. Something, though, when it comes to this, I use almost every possible DJ software and hardware that's on the market. That's a part of my job as an educator. I've been teaching people how to DJ for the last 22 years. This is actually 30 years of DJing myself. It's been an absolute pleasure. But yeah, we are in relationship with all these different manufacturers and know quite a lot about some of this stuff. Don't know everything, but know quite a lot about it. And hopefully there's stuff that we can help you with here today. So you were asking about Serato. If I go into Serato, you'll see this setting here, use auto gain. So what you want to do is you want to make sure to set your auto gain. I've set mine at 95 dB inside of Serato. And then once you click this on, you're going to need to reanalyze all of your files. So you'll need to click on this analyze files. And depending on how many tracks you have, it could take a while. I don't recommend doing this right before a gig. I think if you're going to do this overnight, maybe several nights before you have a gig. And then what that'll do is that will, it'll try to get it as close as it possibly can to even out those volumes. However, this is very important for me to also say to you. If you have a crappy file that you ripped off of YouTube, there's no amount of auto gain that's going to make that song sound better. Or you just got a file from wherever, right? And that's a part of the challenge that we have right now is that, music itself, like we're getting music from all these different sources and the quality of that music does vary. So, yes, auto gain will help get it close, but you still might need to be mindful of that. And I try to be mindful of that on my side too, which is also why your pre-cue is so important. I see so many DJs DJing without headphones, which, by the way, I know I'm out here also right at this moment, like showing you an example without headphones, which is probably I should get in the habit of like really using headphones, even in the examples I give, even when it's something simple like this, right? Because your headphones are really your lifeline. Your headphones are going to help tell you when something is coming in a little bit loud or soft. You'll be able to hear that in the headphones before hearing it out of the speakers. So do not Forget about these. These headphones are important. They're not just like an accessory that sits on the side of the table. And in fact, actually, when I DJ, typically I don't actually DJ with over-ear headphones. In fact, I'll show you what I use. So I use have this little pouch of this right here. These are my, can you see this here? These are my in-ear monitors that I use when I DJ. So I pop these into my ears and then I, plug this into my controller and then I'm good to go. But I, go everywhere with my in-ears. And it's important to be able to hear what is happening before you're actually playing. And that'll help a lot too with that whole auto gain situation. So use your headphones. That definitely can help. Okay, cool. And also watch where you get your tracks from. Let's see what else we got in the chat. By the way, if you're just joining us, feel free to put in the chat where you're from or a question that you have. This is a part of our Ask Me Anything, Ask Hapa Anything, or AHA here today. I'm just getting started. Here we go. So this is Ryan. I'm just getting started and budget is small. I'm putting a sound system together first. Putting a sound system together first, lighting later. I am finding that analog system is easier on my budget. Any pointers on setup? Here's what I would ask you, Ryan, is what is your total budget that you're looking to spend? And also, if you're just getting started, I'm gonna offer up something that might not be as, you may not have heard many people talk about this. Something that I like to recommend to students of mine is to rent before you buy. If you have a gig, don't let having speakers or lighting or not having speakers or lighting prevent you from starting to do gigs. You can do gigs even without owning your own equipment. You just need to understand what the cost of that is going to be to rent. And a lot of times how most rental houses price their rentals is it's typically about 10% of what the retail cost is. So if, here's $1,000 speaker, you could probably rent it for about $100 a day, $100 for a one-off rental, right? For a speaker. Now that's $1,000 speaker. So if your budget is tight as well, might be best to not even worry about buying speakers yet. Unless you've got a lot of gigs lined up, a lot of times those speakers, they take up space, they take up budget, right? They're just sitting at home a lot of times. So you're almost better off finding a rental house, also making friends with other DJs or other people that have their own system. Maybe you're even able to rent out a set of speakers from a DJ friend who's not using them. And I would highly encourage that as being your first way to go rather than buying speakers that are less than ideal. And, because the investment is still the investment. And then the resale value on a pair of speakers that's not necessarily great is also not going to be very high in terms of the resale value of that. So I think renting is the better way to go, in my opinion. And the other real benefit to renting as well is now you can maybe foster a relationship with somebody in your local area who rents equipment, who they might need DJs at some point in time, So I would encourage renting versus buying. And hopefully that helps, Ryan, and maybe help somebody else who's here in the room. Okay, cool. Let's see. Good question. I know Rekordbox have that feature normalize gain. Okay, so Carl had that same question about normalizing gain, and the same thing is true inside of Rekordbox. Let's see. Let me check the chat. Hold on one second. Let's see. How do you get your how did you get your hot cue to jump when you changed your crossfader? Ryan asking, I also have the Flex 4 and I use Serato. How did you get your hot cue to jump when you changed your crossfader? I think that might have been when I was using Algorithm DJ and it sort of tried to auto mix essentially for me by using the crossfader. Maybe that's what that was. And that's what I mean by, you're not in control of what's happening. Like I almost didn't even realize that was happening. There is something called fader start. And this used to be a feature on the Pioneer gear back in the day, where if you checked on fader start, as soon as you came off the crossfader, So as soon as you came off the crossfader, the track would start, and that's called fader start. There's no fader start inside of Serato. I think there still is the remnants of a fader start setting inside of Record Box. But again, I don't know if you'd really want that. Like for me, I actually would want to trigger the hot cue myself as opposed to, do it off the crossfader. Some of these like things where like one button does three things is not ideal when it comes to DJing. Sometimes it's helpful, other times it's really not. Most of the time, I think it's not. I think it's better to be able to control that yourself so that you know exactly what's happening. Um, okay, let's see. We've got a couple of other questions here in the chat. I think this is Boyet Pogi, something like that. Coach, how long is the course? The course, it depends. We've got a couple of different courses that we have. We've got a full certification course. It's an 8-level program. It's not a course, it's a full program. It's an 8-level program. If you're interested in that, you can email me. My email is Hapa, Hapa, at thedjcoach.com. Feel free to reach out to me. Be happy to point you in the right direction. We do have that. That's our full certification program that gets into the business of DJing, helping you build a brand, as well as making sure that your skills are on point. And so we spend a lot of time working on all three of those things. You're with a coach. It's a full coaching program. It's a bit more intensive than just buying a course off of a shelf or something like that. We don't really do that. I mean, we have a few things that are like that, but really our focus is on how do we help come alongside you and make you the best DJ you could possibly be, right? And that's a part of where our approach is. I think there's so many different ways you can learn how to DJ today. But I think that a lot of people, instead of needing only the information, you need somebody to hold you accountable. You need somebody to help you actually execute it and actually do it. Because I think a lot of us know the information, but then doing it and then seeing the result is a whole other thing. And having somebody that you can continue to ask questions to and get help from, and there's a lot more involved in this as opposed to just, oh, now I know how to do it and now I'm done, right? So but if you're interested in that and that sounds like something that you want to check out, email me, Hapa, Hapa, at thedjcoach.com. I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. We also have a starter program. Starter program is meant to really do just that, is to get you started. So if anybody's at a pretty entry level place, first of all, I congratulate you for being here on a live. If you're here as a brand new DJ, but our goal for our starter program is to get you to a point where now you are playing confidently in front of friends or family for the first time as a DJ, with understanding proper phrasing and great transitions and all of that stuff, and that you're able to do that. I think for a lot of people, that's where things completely open up. Like once you get a taste of that, it's hard to go back. Once you've tasted that, you see people dancing to the music that you're playing. I mean, it's one of the greatest feelings there ever is, or that I've ever had, at least. All right, let me check the chat real quick. Can you show another example of fading an instrumental in versus just slamming an instrumental in? Would cutting the bass on the incoming help, not overloading everything? Okay, so Muse Man, I think you might have gotten here a little bit late. I did show a transition of exactly that. I will show that in just a moment. Let me just double check. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. And let's see. Oh, sorry, Coach. It was your headphone cue, not the hot cue. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, so Ryan, you were asking me if I could replace stems using the headphone cue. Is that what you were asking me? Or you were asking me how to switch the headphone cue with the crossfader? Yeah, okay. So there is a setting. There's a setting. It's not in Serato. There's a setting inside a Record Box, and I think it's actually inside of Algorithm DJ as well, where when you move the crossfader to this side, it now lets you, it knows that you're playing this side. So then it automatically, here, let me show you this. So if I move my crossfader to this side inside of Algorithm DJ, then it automatically lights up this cue button, because now it assumes I want to listen to this song because I'm now going to bring this song in next. So it's sort of this like smart hot queuing system. So if I come all the way over here, it now knows I'm playing this out loud, and now it lights up this cue because that would be this next song, right? That's what we're listening to in the headphones, is the next track. So inside of Algorithm DJ, they sort of have taken some of that guesswork out of it. Again, I just think it's good to do it manually. Like the automatic thing is cool, but I think it's good to learn that muscle memory manually as well, so that if you're playing on something that doesn't have that, you're not dependent on it, you know? Um, it's like having okay, so I have a car right now that parks itself. And while yes, it's cool that this will parallel park itself, if I didn't have any concept of how to parallel park, I don't think that that would be a good feature. And I think it's good that I know how to parallel park. So to have this thing parallel park itself is great. Would I teach my daughter how to drive and park by using this car? No. Like I want her to actually know how to parallel park. Um, and because what happens if she's driving a car that doesn't have this feature in it? Right. And I think same thing goes for like beat sync. And I know sometimes there's people floating around online that have given me a lot of flack for this, and I'm happy to like take the flack. But you know, I am very open about saying that I think a beginner DJ, somebody who's just starting out, I'm talking brand new, I think you should use BeatSync. And I 10 toes down believe in that. And I don't care what any of these old heads say or people who like are adamant about like, no, you need to learn how to manually beat match. Like, yes, you do need to learn how to manually beat match. And I think to be able to get to the next levels of things, I think manually beat match, like knowing how to manually beat match is a good skill to have as a DJ. Do I think it's the first skill that you need to learn as a DJ in 2026? No, I think that's trash. Like, I don't think that you need to force people into doing this thing that you that the because this is the way that I learned that now I've got to force you to do this the hard way or the slower way or whatnot. And there's a lot of people that I think would be very discouraged if the only way that you could play two songs together and make them sound good is you needed to learn how to manually beat match first. That's a long road. That is a really, really long road. Now, that again is not me saying that I don't think it's important. I think it is important, but I don't think it's the first thing that you need to learn. So I don't know. I went on a rant there, but I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, the headphone cue. The headphone cue that we were talking about. Yeah. Okay, good. So hopefully that helped, Ryan. I think I got it right there that time. Okay. And then let's see. Let's see. Tour music. Okay. Let's see. Hello, Hapa. I've owned the Rev 5 for about a year. I couldn't say I'm a beginner exactly, but I've been wanting to learn how to scratch. I always admire other DJs who have mastered scratching. Yes. We actually had a big conversation about this last night, scratching with my pro DJ cert team last night. We're talking about scratching and why scratching is does every good DJ need to know how to scratch? No. In order to be a good or a great DJ, do you need to know how to scratch? No, not at all. This is a preference. What are the benefits of learning how to scratch? Well, there's a lot of them. Like one of them is you're going to feel more in control and more like tied into your gear. The other thing is the scratch is really the one of the only ways that we as a DJ, as a performing DJ, I'm gonna pull up a track while I'm thinking about this. Is something that we can actually um is composition based. So like the DJ equipment and as a DJ, most of what I'm doing is not composition based. It's decomposition and recomposition, right? Like I'm mixing tracks. I'm focused on the structure of it. I'm not focused on playing the notes or whatnot. Scratching is one of those things that is composition based. And so it gives us this sense that I am doing something. I am really in there affecting what's going on and I'm really hands on. And so that scratch part of it does become nice in that way. The other thing I'd say about scratching is, this is one of those things where, again, like as guitar player, if you played the guitar, but you weren't great at like a solo or whatnot on an electric guitar, that's fine. Like you could still call yourself a guitar player, but it would be fun to be able to just really shred on an electric guitar and take a solo or whatnot, right? Like that's kind of what scratching is too in that case. And for what it's worth, I mean, there's also sort of negative things and bad ways and ways that that you could scratch and mess something up. But I'm gonna go ahead and try something here. Let me take a track and I'm gonna take the vocal out of this And let's go ahead and find the vocal on this one. So let's see. Okay, so let's go ahead and show this here. By the way, we've got some different videos on scratching. Right, so being able to add just even a little bit of texture to something that's going on is great. And now here's a couple of common mistakes that I see. And by the way, I want to encourage you to go and check out the YouTube videos that I have. I've got a couple of YouTube videos on scratching. And I break it down and make it really simple. I've also got some follow along exercises that you can do. This is all available to you on YouTube. If you are interested, though, in wanting to go deeper with that and you want a full course on that, hit me up and I can sort of point you in the right direction. We have a course called Scratching Simplified that I can point you to. It's not available to the public anymore. We sort of shut it down, but we still have it. It's still available on the back end. And it is something that you could be able to, that we could open up for you and you could purchase there. In the meantime, though, something that I want to point out, when it comes to the actual scratch, when you see people scratching, a lot of times, like you'll see a DJ using the crossfader and also like the platter, right? And you're like, oh, I want to do that. And so you're using the crossfader. And the problem is that if you don't have the platter down first, the crossfader is actually going to screw you up. So I usually recommend that people are starting with the actual platter. So start with the platter first, get your timing down. Right, get your timing down on the actual platter first, and that's some of the exercises that we'll do in some of these videos. Is you start with the platter first, because honestly, that's the majority of it. The crossfader is really cutting up the sounds, and so depending on like the rhythm in which you cut things, and whether you start open or close, like that's what's going to create some of these different sounds and these different scratches, like a chirp scratch or a flare or an orbit, or like, and that comes down to the amount of times that you're clicking the crossfader and like the patterns in which you're doing with that. But you got to get down the platter part of it first. If you don't have that down, the rhythm and timing of the platter, the rest of it is useless. And I see so many DJs like trying to emulate DJs that they watch and that they love, but they're not actually doing anything, and they're actually doing it wrong. And so take time to build fundamentals when it comes to scratching. And if you do that, you'll be able to confidently even be able to just scratch and drop a song in. Even something simple like that, or even what I just did right now, that wasn't anything super complex. I'm just kind of like layering a vocal sample on top of the beat that's going. I'm just kind of doing this in a rhythmic way, using different notes and sounds and things like that, right? But you like that, to me, that's the where things start. And don't start on the crossfader. Start there instead. So hopefully that helps. That was for Lalo. Yeah, hopefully that helps, man. All right, and we got a few other a few other people that are in here. Okay, so just send an email inquiry. Okay, great. Yeah. Send me an email if you want help. I can help point you in the right direction, or I can get a little bit more information. Like, this is not one size fits all. DJing is not one size fits all, and what works for one person may not work for somebody else, right? But that's why I'm here. I'm here to try to help people get to that next level. Like, we're all about helping people level up. Let me see. So many DJs I've heard don't understand phrasing. Yes, absolutely. And really quick, this is phrasing. So if you don't know what it is that I've just written here, if this is confusing to you, where it's like, this is song A, this is song B, and like understanding when to get in and out of songs, knowing these three things, right? Your BPM, how to get in and how to get out. Like, those are the most essential things. And then, by the way, like, yes, transitions matter. Like, they really do. But also, don't discount your curation. Like, obviously, we all got into DJing because we love music. and we probably have an ear for this. At some point in time, somebody told us, hey, you'd make for a really good DJ, or like, wow, I really love your playlist. You ever thought about being a DJ? And, a lot of us have gotten into it in that way, or maybe back in the day, right? You're making mixtapes, pause tapes or whatnot. That's how I started. And, you just kind of made a commitment and you're taking one step at a time, and here you go down this road. And, I just want to encourage everybody here, wherever you're at right now, if this brings you joy, if music, DJing brings you joy, I encourage you. Hopefully this is, you're here for a reason, and hopefully I can help inspire you in this way as well to take that next step. Do not just stay stagnant and stay where you're at, right? So you've already taken a step here today by joining in on this live. You have spent, what I claim is your most valuable resource, which is true. Like, your money is valuable, of course, but your time is even more valuable. So the fact that you're sacrificing your time, which you could be doing a bunch of other things. Some of you maybe are multitasking right now and you're technically at work or whatever. But, either way, you're investing your time in wanting to get better. You're hoping to learn something today. You're hoping to get something out of this stream, and I just want to encourage you that, keep doing this. Keep seeking this out. Keep taking those next steps. And don't just settle for, well, like, I'm just going to always be this type of DJ, or like, oh, well, I just know what I know, or, whatever it is, or, oh, I'm just doing this as a hobby. Those are some of my favorite people, the people who say, well, I'm just kind of doing this for a hobby. I'm not really trying to make much of this. Why not? Why not? If you got really good at this, why not? Why not get paid to do something that you love to do? Like, why not? And be able to spread joy to other people using the music that you have curated. I mean, like, that's a really great skill to have. Like, DJs are incredibly valuable. So you shouldn't also sell yourself short when it comes to that. But that also involves some other steps, which I would say, do involve creating a brand, like building a business. Like, you should do those things. And I meet so many DJs that just are scared. I'll just say it. Scared of failure. So you're not willing to take the next step that needs to be taken. And in some cases, maybe you also you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So if that inspires you in any which way, hit me up, Hapa at thedjcoach.com. I'd be happy to walk you through, maybe some different options, maybe give you some different insights, maybe suggest a couple of different things and see how we can help you out. In the meantime, I did want to end on this because hopefully, who is it? Museman. I don't know, Museman, if you're still here, but I will finish this the way that I started it, but I'll do this inside of Serato instead. I was doing it in Algorithm DJ earlier. Which track was I using? This is an Anderson .Paak song. Which one was it? No. Is it that? Nope. I think that'll work too. No, come down. What did I use? Okay, so here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's cue this up one more time. All right, there we go. We'll finish it off this way. So I'm going to use proper phrasing in this way. And you were saying fading an instrumental in versus slamming an instrumental in, with cutting the bass on the incoming help, not overloading everything. Okay, so in this case, fading in an instrumental, I'm going to show you this, right? I'm going to use my channel faders to be able to fade in. So let's take we'll come out of this same example. Oh, I'm missing my vocal. Hold on. I was wondering where my vocal was. Keep watching, baby, please. I know you're lying in what you see. I'm only coming out to play. Right, so being able to bring the instrumental like intro in underneath this and fading that in versus slamming it in, like you could tell that like this is a way that we can mix these songs together a bit more smoothly. And this is what we were talking about when we talk about smoothing out the mix. So we don't want to just bring things in harshly. There is a time and place for that too. But a lot of times what I'm really trying to do as a DJ is I'm really trying to connect the songs together with clean transitions, properly phrased in between tracks, showing control over all the different frequencies and the different sounds, and being able to fade in and fade out in a way that is not abrupt. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Thank you for joining me here on live. I made a commitment to be able to get a couple more lives out before the end of this month, so stay tuned. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel. You'll then be notified when I do go live. I should be going live for the most part, either Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That schedule is a little bit fluctuating depending on the things that I have going on my side, but we will get in a couple more live helps before then. And if you're interested in wanting live help more frequently like this, please hit me up, Hapa at thedjcoach.com. We've got a lot of different options that can help you just stay on top of growing as a DJ. And we've got a full formula that we can use, and we can figure out what works for you and be able to get that going. So thank you for joining me. I will see you guys all soon. Shout out to all of our folks on YouTube, all of our folks on Twitch. Bye, everybody. See you later. All right, here we go. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Coach Hapa. I'm very excited to have you here. Folks, I'm here to answer your questions. So you tell me what it is that you want me to answer, and I'm here to do it.